Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
Our friend Tom Dyson at the Palm Beach Letter is giving away free copies of a really cool report he put together called How to Protect Yourself from America's New Secret Police. Inside, you'll learn all sorts of simple, everyday tricks you can use to make yourself a little less visible and vulnerable to scammers, hackers, and even the federal government. For instance, inside Tom's report, you'll learn which free internet email service never to use. This company doesn't care if your account gets hacked or not, or things the government must tell you if they request your social security number, and how to spot skimmers lying in wait on ATMs and gas pumps, and much, much more. These tricks and secrets are low-hanging fruit ideas. You don't have to invest time or much money into them. Most are free. But by taking some basic measures, you can make your privacy much harder to invade than your neighbors. Tom's report is available for a limited time to listeners who take a trial subscription to his newsletter. Just visit the Financial Survival Network homepage for more information, or go to www.palmbeachletter2.com. That's www.palmbeachletter2.com. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network.com. I'm Kerry Lutz on 1230 WBZT. If you're like me, you've got this fixation, a near addiction to technology, and sometimes it feels like it's taking over your life, like you no longer have free will. And that's why we've got Tocc Borandi on now, who's written a book, Awakening Among Zombies and Vampires, who's going to help you to get balance back in your life and take control of the technology so it's no longer controlling you. Todd, welcome to the Financial Survival Network.
Hello, Kerry. It's great to be here.
So, Todd, this is a problem in society, isn't it? People are losing touch with their outside surroundings, with life, and they're kind of getting sucked into the vortex of their smartphones, right?
No, and that's a great way to say it. Everybody is so keyed in on the idea of having all the information that they can possibly have at any given point that they're missing those things that are going on around them, and even missing some of the key questions that they would normally be asking themselves.
Hey, and how did this happen? I mean, one moment we had this thing called a cell phone, and it was nice. You could talk to people. Then the BlackBerry came, and you could get email, and that was okay. You did see certain people really kind of get absorbed into it. And the next thing you know, there's a billion of these devices out there, and the whole world has gotten sucked up into this phenomena.
Well, sure, and I think a part of it is the society and the culture has taken the idea of knowledge being power and really focused on that. We've seen the commercials where the folks are in meetings and they're multitasking and they're able to do multiple things at once. They don't have to wait to leave a meeting to be able to schedule another one. And so it's a progression of our ability to do more things in a shorter period of time. But the trade-off to that and where we're paying for it is we are really getting ourselves inundated with not only tasks that we have to accomplish, but with the information itself. So you wake up in the morning and you turn on the news and you listen to all the horrible things that are going on in the world, and then you get in your car and you turn on your radio, and hopefully they're listening to constructive information like what's on your show, but not always. And then you get to work, and everybody there is talking about what they've seen on the news and on the radio, and everybody's in their internet browser learning what's going on with today's events. And So you're constantly letting yourself be barraged by this negative news that's hitting you all the time, and you do it to yourself. Now we can do it to ourselves. We carry our smartphones with us, and anytime we have an extra minute, rather than sitting and taking a deep breath, we're in our cell phones either texting somebody or browsing the internet.
Hey, well, I don't know if you remember this movie. It was back from the 60s, from 1967, called The President's Analyst. And what's the guy's name? In like Flint, what was his name? James Coburn. He's the president's shrink, basically, and he's kidnapped by the phone company because they want to implant a chip into his brain that will enable him to call any phone in the world, and also, as just an aside, it will enable the phone company to monitor his thoughts. And it turns into a whole wacky spy thriller. But the point being here that, that reality is a lot closer than any of us care to think about. And it's just life, art imitating life, or life imitating art, if you will. And we've just lost sight of the fact that life is not going on in your smartphone. Life is what's going on inside you and around you, not what's going on in your technology. Absolutely.
And that's part of the focus of the book and why I wrote it, because there are plenty of books out there that talk about the 10-step process or the 15-step process to doing any number of things. But really, in this case, you're walking around with your smartphone, and that's the chip that should be in your head, because every time you tweet or Facebook or anything else, you don't need a chip in your head. You're putting your thoughts and your life out there for the world to see. But what we're focused on is the questions about that you could be asking yourself. Those times when you should be disconnecting from the technology and asking yourself who you are and what it is that you're really focused on doing and passionate about doing. And I think that's huge, because the technology acts as a great distractor at this point in our evolution.
So what you're really saying is you're treating it like a drug almost, that it's like gambling. It could be like taking drugs, like alcohol, like perhaps even for some people a sexual addiction, and you use it as a method of not coping with reality, of escaping unpleasantries in your day-to-day life. Hey, I can go watch a movie on my smartphone. I can go read the latest edition of the New York Times. I can go look at a blog and deal with that ugly side of yourself later.
Absolutely. And a simple example of this, go into a coffee shop and get in line behind somebody who looks like they are on their way to work and they've stopped for their cup of coffee. Now, usually this person will look at their watch or their smartphone a couple of times, and it's usually to see what time it is. I like picking on people that still wear watches, but they'll look at their wrist 2 or 3 times, and after the second or third time, I might tap them on the shoulder and say, "Hey, can you tell me what time it is?" And they have to look at their wrist again. They don't really know. It just hasn't computed in that side of their brain, and it is like a drug. It's staying constantly connected and having the information there, even if you're not processing it.
So you've come to the conclusion that you have an issue, there's a problem, and your smartphone is at the center of it, that somehow problems in your life are manifesting themselves in your behavior with your smartphone. So question is, what do you do then? What's next, Todd? How do you cope with this situation? How do you cure yourself of this, what by all accounts appears to be an addiction?
Well, and I think it goes back to exactly what you just said. The addiction, if you go cold turkey, you're going to go through withdrawals. So if you're used to going home at night and you're used to turning on the TV to listen to the evening news, don't turn it on one night. See how long you can walk around the kitchen and get your dinner ready without having that distraction on, because really what you're left with is a silence. You're having to deal with yourself, and it's a good introduction to your ability to interact with yourself. You can do the same thing in the morning. I know the first time I tried this, because I decided that I was going to turn the radio off in my car coming to work one morning, and what really got my complete undivided attention was I had to turn the radio back on within 2 minutes the first time I tried it. I couldn't stand it. And so slowly withdrawing yourself slowly it would be my recommendation. Set your phone up so that if you have a smartphone and you have to stay connected to the world and you want to be informed, great. Be informed, but don't be inundated. Give yourself rules and boundaries and say, I'm going to use my cell phone. I need it from 8 to 9 in the morning. I'm going to look at it over lunch, and I'm going to look at it at the end of the day before I leave for the day. That is how I'm going to utilize this technology. It's funny when you're in the restroom and you hear a cell phone go off and you hear somebody in one of the stalls say hello. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
Set your boundaries and then work backwards so that you start becoming connected with yourself, and by becoming connected with yourself, you're going to start connecting with the outside world. That outside world that exists beyond what technology is putting in front of your face.
Yeah, it's amazing how many of those cell phones wind up in the toilet too, inadvertently. And I think you've all seen the YouTube video of the lady. She's walking down the promenade of a mall, texting away on her smartphone, and the next thing you know, she's going headfirst into the fountain. And, the guys on the security are kind of narrating it. They're laughing hysterically. Supposedly the woman sued them all. I don't think she had much of a case, but hey, it made for good YouTube videos, that's for sure. But yeah, you have a good point. Withdraw gradually. I mean, I remember going through a similar thing of just shutting off the radio in the car, because sometimes the noise just gets to you and you're just sick of listening to the thing. You can't hear yourself think. You know that expression, Todd? You can't hear yourself think. I think that has a basis in reality, don't you?
I really do, and I think that's a key point as well, as we have gotten so used to not hearing ourselves think and gotten away from really trusting ourselves and the instincts that we have, because we have so many other people that can tell us how things should be. I mean, you can go out and you can use any search engine that's out there, and they will tell you how things are supposed to be and give you an instruction set, and in most cases even give you pictures on how to do things. So rather than going and trying to figure out how to do it yourself, we go out and we pull it up on the internet, and we learn that way. But there's a certain part of us that we haven't used our own ingenuity and our own capability to process through that.
Yeah, so it's a discovery process, and we're going to talk more about this up next on the Financial Survival Network with Kerry Lutz, 1230 WBZT. I want to welcome our new sponsor, Audible. I've been listening to audiobooks from them for over 5 years now. I am a huge Audible fan. In fact, I've bought multiple Platinum memberships. Platinum membership, you buy 25 audiobooks at a time. I just got done listening to the first 3 or 4 books of the Jack Reacher series, the one you probably saw, or maybe you didn't, in the theater, Tom Cruise movie. I mean, just a wonderful book, wonderful series, expertly narrated, and so many times I'm in the car I get sick of listening to music or news or the radio. I just put my iPod on, plays the book, and makes that trip go by so quickly. To me, this is one of the great things of the information revolution of the internet, is that you can get over 100,000 books on your iPad or iPod or iPhone instantly. Another thing that they have is courses on Audible, the Modern Scholar series. And I've listened to lectures about World War I, Shakespeare, nanotechnology, detective novels. It's so enlightening. To me, Audible is a must-have killer app for the iPhone, the iPad, for my computer, wherever I am. I'm always downloading these books. Like I say, they're a sponsor, so check them out. They've got a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial membership. Just sign up at www.audiblepodcast.com/Lutz, Lutz. Again, audiblepodcast.com/Lutz. Sign up today. Like I say, this to me is a dream sponsor. These are exactly the types of things that I like to pass on to you because I'm such a fanatical, over-the-top Audible user. 5-6 years I've been listening, hundreds of books. I used to think I was a well-read person, and it's a little strange when somebody asks you, did you read that book? And you have to say, well, somebody actually read it to me, but they actually did a better job than I could have, so I don't mind it. But my friend Sean Perger up in Vancouver, he listens to almost as many as I do, and he can't get enough. I know you're going to love this company, love their service. I do. So check them out. audiblepodcast.com/Lutz. And we are back on the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz with Tocc Borandi. We're talking about technological addiction to your smartphone. Are you a smartphone addict? I know I've been at times. And Todd, I don't know, have you ever found yourself in the throes of addiction to this device where you really say, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? What am I missing out on?
Absolutely. Actually, I'm probably a little closer than most people because my career has been in information technology. So I love technology. I love anything new that comes out. I like to see what the capabilities are, and I like to push the outer limits of what the technology can do for me. So yes, I've been there and definitely done that.
Hey, and what was it? What event was it that really triggered you and made you really say, "Hey, this is it. I've got to change it. I've got to stop doing things this way. It's not good."
I think probably it happened in a couple of stages, but the one event was when I asked myself, how much time do I actually spend on me? And this was more of a health question to start, was, how many times a week are you exercising? How much are you taking care of yourself? Are you eating right? And I asked that question of myself as it related to what I do for a living and how I interact with folks in my life. And really what I found was that the amount of time that I was spending with myself asking the really important questions of myself was less than 30 minutes. And that 30 minutes was usually in the shower. Every other time, throughout my entire day, from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep, I had the ability to be distracted by video games or by the computer, by radio. I could walk around and play music off my smartphone, keep up with Facebook posts and Twitter posts, and really, I was spending a huge amount of time being connected. And so that was probably the wake-up call for me. And it wasn't long after that I got in my truck and said, okay, I am not going to listen to the radio this morning. And I got just barely got out of the neighborhood and turned the radio back on and said, "Yep, I have a lot of work to do."
So this realization kind of just hit you, and I think that it's hit me at times as well, because another thing is when you find yourself with company and you're in a restaurant or you're with people and you start looking at your smartphone instead of being with them, it's really kind of rude, isn't it?
I think it is. But the really scary part of that, I think, is that people are starting to accept it. You get people who are starting to. I go into restaurants and there are two couples sitting at the table and all four of them are on their smartphone, and you kind of go, okay, well, why are you here enjoying a meal together? You don't even need to be here, and that's the scary part, is I think that it's starting to become a social norm and people are seeing it as acceptable for that to happen.
Wow. I always excuse myself when I do it because I know I shouldn't be, and I feel guilty about it. And the people, like you say, they don't seem to be too upset that I'm doing it, and yet I know that it is wrong and I shouldn't be. And so if they're not gonna hold me accountable, how am I going to hold myself accountable? And it's not right. So if society is now not holding us accountable for this, I guess it's just going to become totally okay to be rude and just do your cell phone and not worry about it.
I think that's probably one path that we could definitely go down. That's kind of the question is, when you this awakening that you go through, that you look around and you realize that you've got zombies walking into water fountains and you've got people that are just completely absorbed in the technology. That really is the question, is do you want to remain a part of that? And in part of my book, one of the things that I mention is you kind of want to be careful when you talk to other people, because you start asking yourself the right questions. And you get so excited about the things that you're seeing when you do disconnect that you start wanting to share this with family and friends. And for the most part, their reaction is, that's just silly. What are you talking about? And so they get a little antsy and aggressive too, because you're messing with their reality. You're talking about taking something from them that because they haven't been unplugged. And so you kind of you've got to balance there, because I've seen people that have said, you don't know what you're talking about, and I've got perfect control over it, and I don't have those problems, and so it can become a very interesting conversation.
Oh, that it can, for sure. And sounds like we need another 12-step program here, doesn't it?
Well, and that's the interesting part about this, is everybody has a unique perspective on their life and their reality and the things that they see. So it would be easy, like, okay, in the book I said, here are ways to identify a zombie, and here are ways to identify a vampire. But what I wanted to be real careful of is not to say, here are the steps that you have to take in order to get yourself to the point of awakening, because everybody has a unique experience. When I say hot to you, you have something that triggers in your brain, and that's going to be different than my experience of hot. And so I wanted to provide some of the questions that you could ask yourself that will really give you some aha moments, but not say, before you can move to step 2, you have to fully understand step 1. So I tried to avoid that.
Makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I guess it's not quite as serious as that addiction, but look, people do die in their cars, Todd, texting when they should be paying attention to the road. So and I've been guilty of this myself, although I like to think I'm better at it than most people, but I've slammed on the brakes the last second before running into somebody, and if we're that into the technology that we're taking those kind of risks, and you know who you are, if you've taken your eyes off the road to text, then you're guilty of it as I am, then really you're sacrificing your safety for the sake of communicating unnecessarily, because there's nothing you have to say when you're driving that's that urgent that you have to take your eyes off the road, that you couldn't instead go pull off to the side of the road or wait till you're at your destination or at a rest area, right?
Absolutely. And I've talked with folks about that as well, and they say, well, I use the Tocc feature, so I talk my text, and my response to that is, you still have to push that button and take your eyes off the road, and you still have to push the send button, and it's not automatic, and things can change in an instant. You lose your attention for an instant, and it can happen. And
it does.
So I completely, and that's the amazing thing about technology, is we look at it and we say, well, this gives me the ability to multitask. Well, that's great. You can multitask, but that means that your attention is being split. And if your attention is being split between a text you receive, the song on the radio, and you're driving, that means that you're down to about 30% that you're paying attention to your driving at 60 miles an hour. That's very scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're really onto something here, Todd. And of course, we're going to want to find out where to get your book, your website. Where do we go for that, Todd?
Okay. My book, Awakening Among Zombies and Vampires, is available on Amazon. And my website is www.discoverabalance.com.
All right, discoverabalance.com. And, of course, link will be up on financialsurvivalnetwork.com, so click it, check out the site, highly recommended. Got to do something. The technology is taking over your life, and it's not always for the better. You don't need all the information in the world at your fingertips every single moment of the day. There are times when you can make your life and your home and your office technology-free zones. I don't know when those times are. I'm not one to talk. I need a little balance in my life as well. Todd, thanks so much for coming on the Financial Survival Network. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, it's Kerry Lutz. I recently decided to move my retirement account into physical precious metals to hedge against the coming times. If you want to move an existing retirement account into physical precious metals that you can hold in your hand, tax-free, there's no company that can do it more quickly and efficiently than Regal Assets. It took them just 24 hours to open my new IRA account, and all I had to do was fill out one simple form. The best part is that Regal Assets does all the work for you. They cover the setup and administrative costs for 2013. If you're interested in making the same move I did, call 855-678-6620, 855-678-6620. That's 855-678-6620, or visit them at regalassets.com. You'll be glad you did, and tell them Kerry sent you.
The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.